Hello, guys. Good morning. It's a beautiful Saturday. It's February 28th, 2026. I'm Sudarshana Starshine Star. Welcome to my podcast. Wow, what a history making turn of events. Yes, I have a YouTube channel called It's the Dazzling of the Light, or you can just go to YouTube and type in at Sudarshana Starshine Star. I have well over 300 podcasts there. Some of them are actual videos. A couple are in a short playlist listed there. So if you want to see me speaking, you can go watch those. And I like to start all of my clips with the three opening prayers, which are in Sanskrit and Telugu, but they are very short. They're the Guru Mantra, the Ganesha Mantra, and the Gayatri Mantra. And I do this to bless, uplift, protect, and purify you, me, and this clip. Before I do that, I command on the sacred blood of Jesus the Christ to flow and wash over all of us, to purify us, to benefit us, to enrich us, to sanctify us, to bless us, to protect us. And I ask Yeshua that you flow your sacred holy blood and blessings and healing presence over all of us, all of our human beloveds and all of our animal beloveds, really all over all of creation in this divine eternal moment right now. Please, Yeshua, cast out all satanics and all satanic attachments. Cast out all demonics and all demonic attachments. Cast out the spirit of pain. Cast out the spirit of fear. Cast out the spirit of lack, poverty, scarcity, not having enough. Cast out the spirit of mental illness, of delusion, negative illusions, confusion, fogginess, lack of clarity. Cast out the spirit of self-rejection, self-dislike, self-harm, self-hatred, or the projection of that onto anyone or anything else, as well as the reception of that from anyone or anything else. Thank you so much, Yeshua. Yeshua, please send your healing presence now. Please heal the wounds in our souls. Thank you, Yeshua. We receive your healing presence, your blessings, and your divine protection now. I also command on the beautiful, sacred, divine Mother's loving heart of Mother Mary and her beautiful, gentle presence, but she also has a very fierce heart and a very strong courage and a high strength, and her beautiful, gentle but powerful, eternal Mother Divine's embrace for all of her divine children, all of us. Let us feel that now, evermore, even though we know that Yeshua and Mother Mary are always with all of us, always. But let us ask for a deeper experience, a deeper connection, a deeper merging of this divinity into our lives, into our consciousness, into our hearts, into our souls. Thank you so much. Amen. Svaha. I'm going to call this clip Tehran Flaming, Operations Epic Fury and Roaring Lion Smashed Ayatollah Flat, or Smashes Ayatollah Flat. Yes, on this February 28, 2026, it is a glorious history-making day. I want to talk about what's already passed, but I want to also back up a little bit just to give something foundational, which I think is necessary. So I'm going to begin with something, from Cash Jordan. He was saying some good things early this morning, so here we go. The alternative to a nuclear deal with Iran would appear to be a military conflict. Today, Iran and Russia conducted joint naval drills in the Gulf of Oman. Now, this is obviously not from today; it's from a little bit ago. But I'm just sorry, interrupter. I just want to, sorry, listener. I just want to interrupt here and give a little bit, like I said, of some foundational context to what just occurred a few hours ago in Tehran and other places. Okay, so would appear to be a military conflict. Today, Iran and Russia conducted joint naval drills in the Gulf of Oman. So as talks with Iran's dictatorship go absolutely nowhere, these guys are teaming up with Russia to send a message to the United States that this isolated regime is not alone, even as they back themselves into a corner with their refusal to step down, perpetuating protests inside their country and around the world from those who want change, as well as triggering an unprecedented U.S. military buildup, which could soon have to face off with the Russians. With the drums of war beating louder in the Strait of Hormuz, Iran and Russia held live fire naval exercises which included vessel raids and ship seizures. Why do they need an intercontinental ballistic missile? That's a missile that goes far. The reason is so they have the ability to attack the United States. So why are they spending billions of dollars to create that missile? It isn't for Israel and it isn't for Europe. It's for us. And that means the United States of America. Now, here's a news outlet that's saying Iran, as usual, keeps thinking they can get away with it, that America isn't watching. And this posturing for war, I think, is a major mistake on behalf of the Iranians. The history shows it only ends badly for them. The U.S. is engaged in the largest military buildup in the Middle East since the eve of the Iraq War. F-15 fighter jets, stealth F-35s, KC-135s or KC-13s refueling tankers, and a squadron of F-22 Raptors. And this is from a news contributor on Fox named Brett, and I'm going to say this name so wrong, I'm sure, Brett Velikovich. As Trump said, 15 days, we're going to get a deal one way or the other. And Trump has been very careful to say there's one way that's got consequence that they don't want. He was very clear about that. And then Cash says, so apparently China was also involved in these recent military drills with Iran and Russia. And what nobody's talking about is the gathering of these three regimes in one place. That's not on accident whatsoever. As Iran is the last puppet state of the anti-Western axis, propped up by China and Russia, which used to include Venezuela and failing communist Cuba, an alliance the Russians find even more important the longer their war in Ukraine takes place. Ditto China, who is no friend to anyone on the world stage, unless it helps them project power and influence. And together, this anti-Western axis, these guys help each other avoid those pesky U.S. sanctions we've all been hearing about for decades and assumed were completely useless. But now suddenly work, as the Trump administration has made it clear, if you sail a tanker full of sanctioned oil anywhere in the world, it's going to get captured and rerouted to the U.S. Strategic Reserve. A massive slap in the face to Russia, who routes its sanctioned resources through Iran to the rest of the world, which reveals that if Iran's regime can somehow stick around, the funding mechanisms for continued despotic mayhem remain alive and a real threat. But that brings us to the real reason we are getting closer and closer and closer to something big happening in the Middle East. You've got 2 U.S. carrier battle groups surrounding our adversaries who are all on life support. Iran is on life support every single day as its people rise up and protest for their freedom. And let's not forget that it wasn't that long ago that we the people of Iran who want their freedom, they woke up to having several spots all throughout Iran at once, having 32,000 Iranians who were just in the streets saying that they want their freedom. They were all unalived by the satanic IRGC, the satanic Iran's Revolutionary Guard forces under the satanic Ayatollah. So that's very hard. Let me go back to this. As its people rise up and protest for their freedom. And without a strong Russia and Iran, China, they don't have a friend left on the planet. But Trump's got another ace up his sleeve because this armada, its presence alone, has America's adversaries completely off balance, even without firing a shot. And they're going crazy, expending what little resources they have to perform military drills that won't stop stealth aircraft they don't see until God shows them the instant replay. That was a good one. And as you're about to see, U.S. carriers and ships surrounding Iran, that is nightmare news for Russia, who needs this regime to hang on as long as possible. Then Fox News alert, Russia and Iran carrying out more joint military exercises with the Islamic Republic moving military assets while the U.S. ramps up its presence. One expert claims Iran is repositioning strike zones under the cover of these joint drills with Russia. The Russia drills would cover for the Iranian forces to move their drones into strike position. They've gone under the veil of doing the military exercises, which happen to be along the coastline, and this is an escalation. And then Cash says, so the presence of Russian forces along the Iranian coastline, it does a couple of things. Yes, it's a team up to try and show America, hey, we're here and we're not to be trifled with. But there's an allegation that these drills are giving the Iranians cover so that they can set things up, set up defenses, get things in line to take some sort of preemptive action. And remember, Russia has very few friends left in the world. And without Iran and its strategic oil industry evading U.S. sanctions to fund wars and invasions of countries like Ukraine goes out the window. On top of that, Russia is currently developing Iranian oil fields right now, and Russia supplies badly needed natural gas to Iran so that this regime can prop up its failing economy. On top of that, the way Russia and China look at this is the more countries out there hostile to the U.S. who don't trade with the U.S. dollar, the better it is for them. But this sleight of hand, moving around military assets under the cover of some sort of drill, well, one expert thinks this may have just sealed Iran's fate. And then the Brett news contributor guy from Fox News says, while Iran has, as usual, keeps thinking they can get away with it, that America isn't watching. And this posturing for war, I think, is a major mistake on behalf of the Iranians. History shows it only ends badly for them. Between us and the Israelis, we have a lot of intelligence information on them. They like to hide their drone operations under this guise of exercises, but yet we are almost, flying ours in broad daylight. And I think that's the difference between a regime pretending to project strength and a real military that actually has it. What we're seeing right now, it's not just this routine military maneuvering. It's a chess match in the air. Iran's repositioning strike zones, Iran's repositioning strike drones under the cover of these drills with Russia. And that tells me two things immediately. First, they still don't want transparency. And second, they're testing this battle positioning under plausible deniability. And by the way, let's not forget that this is exactly what Russia did before they went to war in Ukraine. Cash. Very interesting. So we've got the Russians and the Iranians, and they're doing the same thing that the Russians did before they launched an invasion. That's not a good look, especially when you've got your negotiators out there who are trying to tell the entire world that, hey, we're a peaceful nation. We want to just have a civilian nuclear program and a few defensive ballistic missiles, which don't actually exist. Those are offensive weapons only. They go very far. But here they are in secret doing things under the table. How does that make them look like they can be trusted? If they're going to agree to something like a nuclear deal and they're moving their military assets around in secret, hiding things as they make that deal, it makes it look like whatever agreement they come up with and put forward to the United States, it is totally worthless, and everyone is watching this, seeing it happen. And then the news contributor says again, with 14 ships, hundreds of aircraft, and thousands of troops, it's the largest U.S. buildup in the region since the Iraq War deployment. And then Cash says, and the reasons for it are obvious. And then the news contributor says again, and by all accounts, Iran is preparing for the worst. The satellite imagery shows tunnel entrances at the Eschan, looks like Eschan, Eschan. I know I'm not pronouncing that right. Nuclear complex, completely covered in soil to protect it. And then Cash interrupts. Oh, to protect it. Then the news contributor says, Likewise, these pictures show a new military facility built to replace the one destroyed by Israeli strikes in 2024, also covered in soil. Cash. Soil doesn't really protect from weapons. It does protect from prying eyes. It does protect from inspectors. And it does stop people from going into those places to check them out and make sure that they truly are peaceful. But the sites were blown up by munitions that weren't deep underground. The sites were blown up by munitions that went deep underground and exploded their nuclear plants and their nuclear facilities just a couple of years ago. So what are they up to here? Could it possibly be that the actions taken at their nuclear facilities, which were destroyed a year ago and now look like they're being revitalized, are being done in tandem with secret drone-related military buildups along their coastline? Perhaps. And if you're the Trump administration, you're going to get out there and you're going to tell the world that, hey, we want to make a deal with Iran. We want to do it. But Iran is basically proving any deal they agree to is worthless, which puts the U.S. in a situation where action becomes the only option, which is probably what Iran knows, which is why they're setting up their forces to fight back, because they do not want to give up their ballistic missiles or their nuclear program for some reason. And then PBD Network, he says, Patrick says, let's talk about Iran. What's going on over there, Rob? What clips do you have on Iran? Rob, does he say 10 days, Iran, or no? Then there's a clip of President Trump saying, so now we may have to take it a step further, or we may not. Maybe we're going to make a deal with, you're going to be finding out over the next probably 10 days. And then Patrick says, he waits till the last second to say, and then Cash interrupts and says, to say deadline now. And then Patrick says, so 10 days, Iran is going to find out. Randy, what do you think is going to happen here? And Randy says, well, I think they've got two choices. They're going to lose the nuclear weapons and they're going to lose the intercontinental ballistic missiles, one way or the other. They can either give it up on their own or they can take it away. And this is why people need to care more about this. I've said it before. We all know now nuclear weapon bad. But why intercontinental ballistic missile? And Cash says, right. That's the question. That's the question that doesn't jive with the idea of a peaceful civilian nuclear program. You see, Japan, they've got a peaceful civilian nuclear program, but they don't have intercontinental ballistic missiles. They do not have a delivery mechanism for that nuclear program, which is what an intercontinental ballistic missile is. That is not a defensive weapon. It doesn't defend anything. It is only built for offensive force projection. And if you have that, and if you can send a payload anywhere in the world, and you've got a nuclear program, well, put the two and two together. And everybody knows the answer to this question. And then Randy says, Iran has all the rockets they need. If all they want to do is attack Israel, they proved that a few months ago. And frankly, they have all the rockets they need if they want to attack Europe. Why do they need an intercontinental ballistic missile? And then Cash says, right. Randy, this is a missile that goes far. The reason is so they have the ability to attack the United States. So why are they spending billions of dollars to create that missile? It isn't for Israel. It isn't for Europe. It's for us. And we can't allow that to happen. And here's why this is so important. And Cash says, do you want another North Korea? Because that's what's going to happen here. If you've got a nuclear program and you've got a delivery mechanism, you get Kim Jong-un again. And the world doesn't need another dictatorship that oppresses its own people and threatens its neighbors and threatens the rest of the world. That's bad for the world's stability. That's bad for world peace. We don't want to live in a world where evil despots are allowed to dig in their heels and entrench themselves for all eternity. That's why we're not having negotiations with North Korea on anything. Nobody's negotiating with them. They're doing their own thing and nobody can stop them. Do we want that again? I don't think so. But Russia, China, they would love to have a puppet state that is going to be around forever that they can secretly support and prop up, who helps them create their new world order, their anti-dollar axis, where they fund their own mayhem and do what they want and project their force upon the rest of us. Fox News, the Brett news contributor guy, I'm not going to attempt to say his last name again, is speaking again, is there, and a female news reporter on Fox is asking him, Brett, how much ability does Iran have to impose a cost to the United States in terms of striking our military bases? And Cash interrupts and says, not what they will have. And then Brett on Fox says, well, I tell you, their deal from the Ukraine war, I spent a lot of time on the ground there. I can tell you drone warfare is relentless. It's this constant adaptation. It's electronic warfare layered over kinetic strikes, layered over cyber operations. Iran has been watching that. They've learned a lot from Russia. They've seen how low-cost, high-volume drone warfare can grind down a technologically superior force. They've seen how electronic warfare, jamming, drone swarms, it changes the battlefield. And I think you know they've absolutely studied how Ukraine innovates in real time, where they've modified drones, shortened the kill chain, and they're trying to absorb those lessons and refine it for their own doctrine. But I think, you know, the key difference here is that Ukraine's been innovating out of necessity and defending their homeland, while Iran tries to adapt their drones for terrorism and regional destabilization. And I think our administration isn't going to put up with that. And Cash says, right. But here's the other part of this. If that's the threat today, what is the threat when we have a nuclear program and intercontinental ballistic missiles? That threat is different from the threat that we face today, which is still a threat. It's out there. It's dangerous. Rockets could be launched at U.S. military bases. Rockets could be launched at Israel. They've got something going on with the Russians right now that they are planning in secret. So we don't fully know what they're going to do. Are they going to make the first move? Are they getting into position to make a retaliatory move? That's probably their best bet. Cut to Trump's warning to Iran. He's on Air Force One, listeners, and he's speaking to the press there. He's standing like he does in the doorway, and he's talking to the press with the engines of Air Force One like humming loudly in the background. President Trump points to someone in the crowd who's asking him from the press, and he says, yeah, please. Then a press woman says, you said today on Iran, bad things will happen if Iran doesn't, and then President Trump says, bad things, really bad things. And then the press lady says, what will? The President Trump says, I'm not going to tell you about that. And then the press woman says, what is the goal if there is a U.S. military strike? And then President Trump responds, well, we either make a deal or we're going to get a deal one way or the other. Then the press woman says, but when the military strike, you need to wipe out their nuclear, and President Trump interjects, I'm not going to talk to you about that, but we're either going to get a deal or it's going to be unfortunate for them. Then the press woman says, are you giving them a deadline firm to make a deal? President Trump, I would think that would be enough time, 10, 15 days pretty much maximum. And then Cash says, okay, 10 to 15 days to make a nuclear deal with the Iranians before something bad happens. Now the question everybody's got is, will the United States stick to this deadline? Will the Iranians, with their moving around of their drones, their activity at their nuclear sites, could they do something that makes this deadline worthless or causes it to prematurely and suddenly expire before they even realize what's going on? These are the questions that everybody has, because a lot of the moves that Iran is making in secret while they're out, they're saying they want to make a deal. Hey, we're encouraged. They're doing all this stuff behind the scenes. That could flip some sort of a switch that causes things to happen sooner than the deadline we were just told by the president. Because the U.S. doesn't have two carrier battle groups headed to the Middle East to get some worthless agreement. That's not what this is about. This is not about achieving nothing. This is about achieving a decisive peace deal one way or the other. And then a newscaster on Fox says Exercises, which included vessel raids and ship seizures, and sent a notice to airmen not to fly over Iranian airspace during the drills, which could include cruise missiles. The U.S. is engaged in the largest military buildup in the Middle East since the eve of the Iraq War. The Pentagon has deployed more than 120 warplanes to the region, including 50 in the past 48 hours. F-15 fighter jets, stealth F-35s, KC-13s, or that could be, listener, I don't know. It could be KC-135 refueling tankers. I don't know, but let me just give you both options. And a squadron of F-22 Raptors. Cash says, this looks like Operation Desert Storm 2.0. This kind of operation here, all this air power, all these carriers in one part of the world, what could that all possibly be for if it is not to achieve something suddenly and decisively? And this has been the U.S. playbook all along, not just in the Desert Storm, but even as recently as the operation in Venezuela that saw dictator Maduro removed from his bedroom at 2 a.m. U.S. forces went in there and achieved something remarkable, quickly. And we could be looking at the same thing with Iran, but the stakes are much higher. These guys already have long-range weapons. And even though they don't have their own nuclear program, the regimes backing them up have their own nuclear programs. I'm talking about China and Russia. Now, we're not seeking a buildup of U.S. land forces. And that would indicate a grounding. Now, we're not seeing a buildup of U.S. land forces that would indicate a ground invasion like we saw before the Iraq War in 2003. And that's big. There's people saying that, oh, Trump's going to get us sucked into another Afghanistan. He's going to get us sucked into another Iraq War disaster. That's not what we're looking at here. There's no invasion force. And you know why? The people of Iran that are out in the streets of their country protesting to get back their freedom, they are the invasion force. They're the ones that are going to take back their country. They're the ones that are going to come in and get this job done and rule their country peacefully for the benefit of themselves for the first time in decades. And listeners, I'll interject to say half a century. You know, it's been like more than 50 years that they've been under that satanic Ayatollah and the IRGC regime forces. Or rather, they're not a regime, they're the forces of the Ayatollah's regime. And what do you think about that? So then we go to early this morning. Benny Johnson put this out, February 28th, 2026. He titled his clip, "We Are at War." He says, and what Benny's doing here, listeners, he's going through, and I named some of them, but he's going through many different sources. He's showing some online sources, some screenshots, some clips of bombs being dropped, the missiles exploding in Tehran, and different things. But he's reading from many different sources. So let me just go along with this, what I put down. History being made right now before your very eyes. An Iranian ballistic missile hitting an American base in Bahrain. You can see the missile strike. You can see it midair. It's happening. It's all popping off. We've been telling you about this all week, that America will be bombing Iran, and Iran will be retaliating, and it's going to get ugly. This is footage of an Iranian missile slamming into the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet in Bahrain today. It's the Naval Support Activity Center. This is all happening. We prepped you for this absolute and total devastation, destruction, and a message from Trump. The Daily Mail, he reads from the Daily Mail, it says, U.S. urges embassy staff to leave and evacuate Israel. We were telling you this was going to happen in the next 24 hours. It's going to pop off. Obviously, the USS Gerald Ford was docked in Israel. They've turned Israeli airports into effectively military bases, and the embassy screamed at American residents and staff, get out today. Today is the day. And that was yesterday. We watched the buildup. We watched the air bridge happen. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are listening to Dan Scavino posting from the White House. The B-2 bomber video. Operation Epic Fury has commenced. Middle East at war. Iran is blasted. Trump's first wave. President Trump says Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon as he launches Operation Epic Fury. Look at some of the images here. This is the blast heard in Manama, Bahrain. People watch as smoke rises above the skyline in Tehran. They've yeeted the house of the Ayatollah. It is now rubble. Vehicle explodes in flames. Strikes carried out on Iran. Images show smoke billowing after an explosion in Tehran. There's video all across U.S. main bases in the Middle East that might be effectively under threat. And there are people celebrating. There's videos of people celebrating throughout Iran. So here we go. Israel reportedly launched preemptive strikes against Iran. Explosions heard in Tehran. You can see here they launched another strike on the Iranian parliamentary building. Multiple explosions across the capital at Tehran. Israeli Air Force reportedly launches combined U.S.-Israeli strikes, leading to first strike from the Israelis. Then additional footage shows downtown Iran preemptive strike, unilateral Israeli action, or an American one. And now you can see explosions seen across Tehran. Now they are targeting the capital city in the middle of the day. Israel's defense minister says Israel has launched preemptive strikes against Iran and moves to remove threats against the state. Here's the IDF commentary. In the last few days, sirens sounded all throughout Israel. Advanced instructions alert directly to cellular devices. No, I read that incorrectly. Advanced instruction alert directly to cellular devices to stay within proximity of protected spaces. Ladies and gentlemen, red alerts across all of Israel. They know what's coming. They know what's incoming. Obviously, Israel launched what it says is preemptive strikes on Iran. Help has arrived. Help is on the way. According to text messages claiming the Americans will now commence bombing of Iran. They are preparing for several days of war. Officials told the New York Times that dozens of airstrikes are now being carried out against the regime using aircraft carriers. And again, you can see the smoke billowing over Iran. U.S.-Israeli strikes plan to last for 4 days. Get ready, 4 days. They say this is going to be far more extensive than those strikes last June. The trackers popping off at the Pentagon, live updates. Okay, so this is the American base. This is Iran targeting American bases. This is the American base in Bahrain getting bombed. So that's American sovereign territory. Iran has attacked U.S. bases across the Middle East and Dubai. Abu Dhabi and Israel in revenge strikes after President Donald Trump targeted Iran's supreme leader in joint attacks with Israel. Tehran has struck the Fifth Fleet Service Center. We played you that clip. You can see the bomb actually landing. Dubai, Iraq, and Jordan have all reported various missile activities. This comes after Trump declared war and that he will raze their missile industry to the ground. He warned troops in Iran to lay down their arms or face certain death. The first wave of strikes, which followed weeks of knife-edge tension building up between the two countries, happened near the offices of the leader of the Ayatollah Khomeini. They have now leveled his house, which is really a palace, listeners. They have now leveled his, quote, house. It is understood that at least 5 cities have been targeted in Iran, with counterstrikes reported in Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and the UAE. U.S. downs explosive-laden drones near Iraqi airport. So you can see that here, 4 unalived by Iranian missiles in Syria. Italian troops safe after Kuwait base targeted by Iranian missiles. Fury from Congress at Trump's, quote, illegal attack, end quote, on Iran. And of course, France's Macron calls for urgent UN Security Conference meeting. Where have the missile strikes taken place so far? The U.S. and Israel firstly struck targets across Iran, including Tehran and 4 other cities, the capital, Khomeini's palace compound, Ministry Intelligence, and the Ministry of Defense were all affected. Elsewhere, 2 nations have been hit. Lebanon, the Hezbollah infrastructure. So they're going like total war now. In response, Iran has launched missiles against Israel, Tel Aviv, Haifa, and Jerusalem. There's been a fifth strike at a U.S. base. Okay, so we're up to date here. Jordan shoots down ballistic missiles. Sports presenter forced off air in Qatar amid shelter-in-place warning. Okay, Israelis in Tel Aviv, sheltering in place. Excuse me, listener. IDF releases footage of strikes in western Iran. Excuse me, I had to take a little sip of my beverage there. IDF strikes hundreds of targets in western Iran in Operation Roaring Lion. I love that name, Roaring Lion. You can see what it looks like. Missile facilities getting blown up. Iranian Revolutionary Guard unalived. In a strike. The leader of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard was unalived. 40 unalived in strike on Iranian school. Europe split. Excuse me. Europe split over Iranian strikes. Obviously, Europe would be split over that. Destruction in Tehran. Pictures show aftermath of U.S.-Israeli strikes. Iranian Supreme Leader's palace is destroyed. Satellite imagery, aerial images confirm that Iran leader Khomeini's compound has been 100% obliterated. They have a clear objective: end the Iranian regime. Iranian Ministry of Intelligence building just got lit up. Gone. IRGC's underground headquarters attacked with bunker buster bombs. Iranian high school students celebrating, saying, "I love Trump," as the bombs fall into Iran. Man, popping it off. Crazy, man. All right, we'll keep you updated on this. President Trump called on Iranians to overthrow their government. And then this shows a clip, and I'll read it to you, this short speech. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. President Trump's message to the Iranian people. Finally, to the great proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will probably be your only chance for generations. For many years you have asked for Americans' help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you. Wow. I'm glad I got through that speech without choking up. When I was talking to a friend a little bit ago about the speech this morning, I got so choked up at that part where President Trump says how the Iranian people have been begging America for help, but they never got it. So my heart is full. Yes, please, Iranian, we the people of Iran, take the proper action. Take back your country and just step all over those satanic forces. Do not let them ever rise up again. Over 50 years of this hell that you've been living in. Gosh, it will be so glorious to see a prosperous and free Iran. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe, or hit the notification bell. Why not join my YouTube channel? Or if you're listening to this listener on any of my other social media platforms, heart it, thumbs up it, all that good stuff. I appreciate you. And why not drop your comments? What do you think about all this? What's your take on this? Or leave some emojis. I like to see them. Thank you so much. I end all of my clips with a very short closing prayer in Sanskrit and Telugu. And what I'm saying is, God bless all beings in all worlds. Om Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yes, peace, peace, peace. That's what we're all looking forward to. When all this necessary battle of light against dark is completed for the best and the highest of humanity, of this earth realm. And that also includes the cosmos, because this battle is cosmic, it is galactic, as well as earthly and subterranean. God bless you and yours. I'm sending much love and big hugs to you and yours. I'll see you when I see you, and bye-bye for now.